As soon as I wrap up with this, I'm going to get on making my predictions for UFC Abu Dhabi, the fight night that's coming up this Saturday, but I want to make a video that I want to make first. So I'm going to place UFC fighters on an alignment chart. I think that the basis of these charts is the game Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm not a freaking nerd! And I haven't played the tabletop game. I've only played Skyrim. I held a fight companion stream for UFC 318 over the last weekend, and this is gonna sound like I have schizophrenia, but I spent about 7.5 hours talking to Ilya Taporia's right hand about Skyrim. I'm being for real. And we talked about all different moments of the game, and it really had me jonesing to play it, or at least to just talk about it or do something related to it. So my favorite part of Skyrim is whenever you hit Conjuration level 80 and you can summon the Malcolm Gordon Atronach pictured up there at the top. So my mission today is pretty simple. I'm going to go through all 9 different alignments from good, neutral, and evil and all of their variations pertaining to different fighters in the UFC. I have that chart there for reference. This is going to have a lot of Skyrim references inside of it. That woman always pisses me off in Whiterun who's talking about, oh, you hate the sight of a strong Nord woman? Yeah, I might actually. Get out of my face before I'm...
Hey, watch it.
The criteria for scoring the fighters on these alignment charts, I'm going to be factoring their fighting style and also their personalities too. So, before we get into it, I know that we're talking about Skyrim, but bonus points to anybody who knows where that blue chaotic evil monk class mod photo is from and can put it inside of the comment section. That is one of my favorite video games of all time. So first we're going to start with Lawful Good, which is going to feature fighters like Stephen Thompson, Robert Whitaker, Alexander Volkov, and also Diego Lopez. Bonus points to you as well if you can tell me the name of each weapon that will be featured on these slides. I also put helmets on various fighters that I had named as well. These are largely going to be respectful fighters who are going to win decisions without mangling their ops most of the time. These dudes aren't known for putting on really bloody fights. They don't even get finishes a lot of the times. The kindness of these fighters, it can land them in trouble against ill-willed adversaries or dudes who are just meaner than they are. Like whenever Whitaker fought Hamzat, or whenever Stephen Thompson fought Bilal Muhammad, or whenever he fought Gilbert Burns, or whenever he fought Shavkat. These are all people who are meaner than he is. And Darren Till back in the day too was stomping on his knees, and all Stephen Thompson did was just complain about the fact that he didn't like that technique. He's too nice. These are fighters who value family, they're good men, and they fight with good intent, which may actually curtail some of their success, but these are just the type of people that they are, for better or for worse. Next we have Neutral Good. This is going to feature fighters like Brandon Moreno, Islam Makhachev, Tom Aspinall, and JDM. The helmets kill me, man. I'm sorry. I hope that they're not too distracting, but they're so amusing to me. Seeing them wear those helmets is so funny. These guys, they commit heinous acts of violence, but they do not make maiming their opponents their goal. They're good people too, but they're so motivated to win that it makes their actions less good at times. And I feel like that can be characterized by all of these people, because you've seen them have interviews where they're talking. Brandon Moreno builds Legos, for crying out loud, and he actually probably does play Skyrim like to this day. But whenever he's in the cage, he's really prioritizing getting out of there as fast as possible and hurting his opponents too. And that's exactly what he does. It's the same for all of these guys. They're all finishers in their own respects. And they'll be very malicious to get to these finishes as well. But at their core, they're good people. But they're more neutral than lawfully good, because they can be swayed to act in a not so good way due to circumstances and the desire to succeed. I feel like largely these people don't care about being the heels in the eyes of fans either. They know that they have pure hearts and they always carry themselves well in victory. Even whenever they're getting booed on the mic, they're going to be cool and they're not going to put their feet in their mouths. And this is because they can compartmentalize their core values when competing or when involved in MMA spheres. This kind of creates a lapse in character whenever we're talking about their core values versus their actions and words. It's a fist fight. I mean, there's no way to do that politely, but in the event of like Tom Aspinall, him asking Nina Drama what would it take, that was pure compartmentalization of his core values in that moment, just because he was in an MMA space. He is a different person. They all have to put on different alter egos, but these guys as alter ego personas, they're a bit more morally gray than the Lawful Good characters. Chaotic Good is going to be the next archetype that we're going to talk about. We're going to mention fighters like Charles Oliveira, Dricus du Plessis, Merab Dvalishvili, Josh Van, and also Dan Hooker. Some of these guys are known to promote through taking jabs at fighters online, but they're known to be good people in real life. They fight for family, they fight for country, they fight for glory and accolades for their own careers as well. They're intensely chaotic fighting styles, all of them though. And these fighters aren't known for altering the careers of the people that they beat with the damage that they cause, but they don't consider the safety of their opponents either. Charles Oliveira was trying to put a hole through Justin Gaethje's head, but he didn't, so live to fight another day, right? But I mean, it's not like he wasn't trying to absolutely destroy him in there. He was. It's the same thing with Dricus du Plessis. Israel Adesanya was fine after that and still was able to compete another time after he lost to Dricus du Plessis, but Dricus du Plessis was trying to bend him into a pretzel in there. They make it a point to win for the people who support them by any means necessary. Charles Oliveira, I do this for the favela. He's willing to do some crazy stuff for that favela. Joshua Van, he comes from Myanmar and he has a really big family. He is willing to stomp Brandon Royval's knee in half in the final round, which is like, even if you do consider that a clean tactic, which I do as well, it's really grisly, and that must feel really gross to just be stomping on someone's kneecap and to feel that hyperextension and that negative flexion that shouldn't be occurring. You probably feel like a meanie in that moment, but it's all in the name of a good thing, which is the pursuit of your dreams. So I would label these guys as chaotic good. They're the most risky and the most violent of the good archetype of fighters. Next, we are going to discuss the neutral class. So we're going to start with Lawful Neutral. We have Corey Sandhagen, Nasruddin Imavov, Arman Sarukian, Khalil Roundtree, and I put a goofy hat on Khalil Roundtree. Make sure that you guys are telling me what these weapons and shields are called as well in the comments. I would say that this category is comprised of fighters who aren't against inflicting career-altering damage to their opponents, but most of the time they're showing restraint. A prime example of this is going to be Khalil Roundtree in his fight with Anthony Smith. I don't think that Arman Sarukian followed up Beneil Dariush with any ground and pound strikes. Corey Sandhagen backed off as soon as he realized that Davison Figueiredo's knee was blown up and like that he wasn't fighting back. He just stopped. It's the same thing with Nasruddin Imavov with his TKOs over Adesanya and Cannonier. I like these types of fighters because whenever it comes to trash talk, they're mainly talking trash on the basis of their and their opponent's abilities, and they're not dragging their rivals' names through the mud. They're respectful towards the people that they're fighting, but they still believe that they're the best, and they're willing to crack a few skulls too to prove it to everyone. Rarely the people who incite conflicts with other fighters, but they will respond if they feel like things go too far. Khalil Roundtree didn't really start talking much going into the Azerbaijan fight week until Jamal Hill started calling him like a journeyman and was like, yeah, this guy's, I'm gonna have to style on him. And up until then, it was largely all respect from Khalil Roundtree. And for all intents and purposes, Khalil Roundtree could have been saying the same thing about Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is just really good at talking, so we all believe that he was going to win that fight. But he was definitely the dude who was leading a slander campaign against Khalil Roundtree. Arman Sarukian, whenever he's talking about Ilia Topuria or he's talking about Islam Makhachev, he doesn't really have anything bad to say about these people other than things that he sees as deficiencies in their fighting style. And that's the hallmark of a lawfully neutral fighter, is that they're not going to stoop down to the levels of the evil guys, the chaotic evil fighters, just to get fight hype established. And they may cap a little bit or embellish just for the sake of building up fight hype, but it's not going to be an embellishment made about the lifestyle of a fighter and saying that they do something that they don't, or spreading rumors and drama about them. It's just going to be, this is what I surmise about the way that you fight. I think you suck and that I beat you up, and that there's nothing wrong with that. Now we have true neutral fighters. Jeff Neal, Renato Moicano, Derek Lewis, and Sean O'Malley. These guys do not care. They just kind of want to fight. And I wouldn't put Sean O'Malley here prior to his last fight week, whenever he changed his attitude and became sober. I would say that these guys largely don't concern themselves with much other than the task at hand, and it's for the sake of achieving a secondary goal. They have ulterior motives other than just becoming the world champion. A lot of the times for these guys, it could be money. For Renato Moicano, it's money. For Derek Lewis, I feel like it's respect from fans, and I think that that's growing to be more important to Sean O'Malley as well. Everybody wants respect. That's like a universal man thing, but Jeff Neal, his situation is really cool because he has a criminal background, and he is fighting just to lead a better life for himself. So some dudes in the position of Jeff Neal, they do what they do just so that they can live like a fighter, and they don't have to worry about being in the street or doing something stupid to jeopardize their freedom. And I respect it a lot. And because they have very specific and tailored goals, they have no issue with hurting people very badly to accomplish them. But because they're not focused on being the best and holding belts and developing skill sets to be world champions, and they're focused on smaller goals, they can be outskilled and made defenseless when outmatched, and there's a lot of people who can do that, championship caliber fighters most of the time. But Derek Lewis has showed us that if you aren't a championship caliber contender, Tai Tuivasa might have been an exception to this, he's gonna knock you out. Because his resolve to just be the knockout king and to have the respect of the fans as the dude with the most knockouts in heavyweight. It makes him fight harder than a lot of guys who are at the very beginning of their career and see no real path to the belt with Tom Aspinall as champion, but are just kind of there going through the motions. You're going to get knocked out by Derek Lewis, and it's been this way for a long time. Largely, these dudes have the same level of morality as a hitman. They're contracted killers. They want money, they want respect, they want to live a lifestyle. Next, we have Chaotic Neutral. We have Michael Morales, Paulo Costa, Ilia Topuria, Alex Pereira, Joaquin Buckley, and Gene Silva. There's a lot of fighters that fit under Chaotic Neutral. I would say that the intentions of these fighters are often veiled by an inability to speak English. A lot of these dudes are not very fluent or fluent at all in English. They don't seem to be bad people at all, but they're very violent and unhinged fighters. A lot of these guys are really deep into telling jokes to the fan base, some of which can be mean-spirited and directed towards people that they're going to fight or people that they want to fight with. But at their cores, we know that these people are not evil. For all of the bad things that boy Joaquin Buckley has said about Ian Gary, which, I mean, it's easy to pick on him, but let's think about what else. Paulo Costa, man, he's literally had a smear campaign that's been painted against everybody in the entire UFC, and we know that at his core he's probably not a bad person, but he just says some really unhinged and crazy shit. But one thing that can be noted is that they can get into beefs with other fighters or people that they will fight with that can corrupt them to be more evil at times. Pay attention to the way that Ilia Topuria flipped on a dime whenever he was fighting Charles Oliveira and the respect that he showed to that ex-champion. And then whenever they got Paddy Pimblett into the cage, the night and day difference in attitudes there. And I would say that quality characterizes these fighters. They're capable of great reverence and respect for people who deserve it, and also capable of great violence and disrespect to the people who disrespect them. Next, we'll be going over the evil categories. We have Lawful Evil as the first one. Bilal Muhammad, Steve Garcia, Paddy Pimblett, and Michael Venom Page are going to be our mentions here. These fighters, they pride themselves for being people who damage others. They often talk about how much they enjoy violence in the cage, can be very disrespectful towards their opponents as well, but it never goes past what they would do in the octagon. These guys aren't taking shots at like their families or talking about the personal lives of their opponents. It's always about what I will do to you come Saturday whenever we're both locked in that cage. But for fighters like Michael Venom Page or like Paddy Pimblett, they can get pretty detailed with that. Bilal Muhammad too, for that matter of fact. They can get pretty detailed in describing how they're going to dispatch their opponents to the point where it seems pretty disrespectful. But that's just genuinely what they believe that they can do. And it builds hype for the fight. So I would never say, oh no, you shouldn't talk trash. But it does kind of make them look like evil bastards. Paddy Pimblett said that he was going to teabag Jordan Levitt, and then he actually did it. But I mean, to be fair, that was after Jordan Levitt said that he was going to twerk on Paddy, which like, we would have probably fought as soon as I saw him in the fighter hotel if he had said something that zesty about me whenever I couldn't even have defended myself. He would have for sure needed my fade. In fights, these combatants will follow up KOs with hammer fists, and they'll hold chokes for an extra half second to put out their opponents if they don't tap. Nothing egregious, but they visibly enjoy causing suffering in the cage. Michael Venom Page throwing that pokeball at the dude and then chucking up the peace sign was about as happy as I've ever seen someone to win a fight. And he had to have known how much damage he had caused to that guy, or even had like a little inkling of a feeling that his skull may just be like completely done after he landed the knee. You feel how flush strikes are. And that was probably the best feeling knee he ever threw. And instead of like showing concern for his opponent, he put on the Ash Ketchum hat, threw a fucking pokeball at the guy, and smiled from ear to ear. That's pure evil. This is our first little taste of it, but Lawful Evil is where we begin to see sadism out of these fighters, actually enjoying the suffering and anguish of others. Neutral Evil is going to be the next category that we talk about. This is going to feature fighters like Colby Covington, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, and Dominic Cruz. Objectively questionable morals out of most or all of these people, but these guys have no real ability to inflict actual pain on their champions, and they often do not stop their contenders. They can fight, but they're often just meaner with their words and styles. Dominic Cruz, he didn't get a send-off because he hurt himself before he was supposed to fight and then just retired, and that was very smart that he did instead of hanging out for another 2 years and then coming back when he's like 42 and then fighting. That would have been so stupid, and I hope that he doesn't do it still. Quick question, do you guys think that Dominic Cruz had a better retirement than Dustin Poirier because he didn't have to lose a fight first before leaving? Dustin Poirier did get an entire numbered event made around him for his retirement, but he got kind of beat up in his last fight. Do you think that Dominic Cruz had a better retirement? Let me know. These fighters, they can vary between having a very calculated and measured approach in their fights, or they can just throw the kitchen sink at whoever they're fighting with. Fighters like the ones that you see in front of you right now would be put in the chaotic evil bracket if they had higher finishing potential. It's just no matter how crazy they get, it's just minus 0.5 HP, minus 0.5 HP, minus 0.5 HP. These are generally nasty people that a lot of fight fans dislike. Sometimes they can come off as performative whenever they are talking trash, but they're always saying something mean-spirited, or giving a backhand comment to someone, or making a call out, or dragging someone's name through the dirt. They can't help themselves. The final category that we're going to discuss is going to be chaotic evil. We're going to be discussing fighters like Conor McGregor with the sick-ass White Run guard helmet on, Jon Jones, Nate Diaz, Khamzat Chimaev. And the more that I think about it, Nate Diaz, sure, yeah, he's a BMF, but he's a dickhead. And I don't feel bad at all. I didn't in the moment whenever he had to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Like, whenever that was about to happen, people were like, oh my god, Nate Diaz is going to die. No, dude, like, Nate Diaz is an asshole. And he wanted that because he enjoys hurting people. He calls out people that he wants to hurt, just like the rest of these guys do. And he tells these people that he's gonna hurt them. And they'll also utilize mental warfare, fighters like Nate Diaz, like Khamzat Chimaev, texting Paulo Costa's wife and saying, you need to find a stronger man because this man likes black men, and then sent her the photo of Izzy humping him in the butt, bro. Like, this is crazy. This is insanity. This is chaotic evil. These guys are not against stooping down to any level that they have to stoop down to in order to elicit reactions out of the people that they need to get under the skin of. I was brought up to believe that MMA and combat sports in general is all about respect, and it is, but these fighters, they do not treat MMA that way, and they would likely kill their opponents if it was allowed. Yeah, they're pretty rotten, like all of them, and these are not the heroes of this story. And I'm sure that they have families and people who love them and people who they care about and that they're always nice to, but they've convinced all of us that they're mean people. And that's their public persona, is that they're mean people and that you probably shouldn't just approach them in public. If you caught Conor McGregor in a good mood, maybe you could get a picture with him. Jon Jones is likely always going to be nice to you in public, but Imagine if you were in the brothel with Jon Jones and you told him no more white stuff. Imagine how he'd react. Imagine if you were Jon Jones' plug, or you were like a new connect with his and he wanted to buy some white and you only took Cash App and he had Zelle. You're finished. You're finished. So we got a little bit of nostalgia to end this. I just started thinking about Skyrim, bro. I used to pimp on Skyrim. It's 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I used to be pimping on Skyrim. I always knew I wasn't going to be gay. By the way, that I was always on the huzz in Skyrim. I used to rock with this one woman in Riften named Mjol the Lioness. And she had her own follower, this twink named Aaron. And he used to follow her everywhere. And if you smoked him in front of her, she wouldn't rock with you anymore. There would be like this like cutscene that would play, or like scripted dialogue where she would be like, yo, like, you're an asshole. Like, why'd you kill him? Like, that was low key like my lover on the side. Like, while we were together, like I was actually getting piped from him too. And now you killed him? Like, I'm out. So the challenge was always to find a creative way to make it seem like he slipped and fell so that I could bang in the video game world. And I was doing a whole lot of that in Skyrim. If there was a competition held between the years 2012 through 2016 for banging in Skyrim, I would have won that shit easy. And like, the more that I'm thinking about it, Mjol was low-key a chooser, and she was a bop too, and I shouldn't have been messing with her. Even though she had that cool face paint and she gave you that really nice glass sword. I put Ysolda at the top of the page. This is not going to make any sense to people who haven't played Skyrim. But if you haven't played Skyrim, it's like a 14-year-old game at this point. Go back and play it, dude. You owe it to yourself. I don't even be playing video games like that anymore, that much at least. But if you've never played Skyrim, carve out a little bit of time and just enjoy a playthrough of Skyrim, dude. You owe it to yourself. But I was on the baddies like Ysolda. I was on Roki. I was on Camilla Valerius. I wasn't even gooning at this point, bro. I was too young. I was just staying faithful to my Skyrim wives. And coming back from my adventures, and I was just cracking that shit up in Hearths. What was it? Proud Spire Manor? Yeah, bro. That was the pint, bro. I was getting crazy up in there. Me and Ysolda was making a Solitude shake on Fornham Grave. I just spent like 5 minutes talking about cracking your soda. Alright, I'm gonna cut this shit, you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I had a ton of fun making this video. I'll be back really soon with the predictions for UFC Abu Dhabi. Alright, I'm gonna catch y'all. Have a nice one.